Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
And the crowd goes wild. Bill has come out the gate with his strongest stance yet. Oh, I love it. Well done, sir.
All right. Well.
And he's back. It's again. Well, what a follow-up.
Yes. Well, and what I wanted to say about that is I wanted to, first of all, publicly thank Katie Otten for doing our intro for us, because
I thought you were going to thank Katy Perry, whose music we've been listening to for the last 10 minutes. But okay. We had some technical difficulties, and we were working it out with Katy Perry.
Right.
And for the explanation for that, come to British Fest. We'd be glad to tell you all about it.
There you go. And but thanks to Katie Otten for the wonderful intro to our podcast for us. Probably better than we deserve.
It is. It's actually better. Yeah. It outstages us. It makes us look even worse.
Right.
By comparison. Awesome job by Katie.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks to everyone for joining us for what is now our second podcast. And I am Bill Newman.
I'm John Powers.
Charles.
Audie.
And yes, we have two guys with only
they only have first names. It's like Cher.
Unlike our
guys are like Cher.
Unlike our intern Allison Betty.
Yes.
She has two names.
There's two of them, Bill.
No.
That's my line. That's what I'm supposed to say. That's all. That's all you ever program me with.
All right. Well, so let's kick off our show here with some interesting observations by Charles.
Yeah, he always puts me on the spot just like that.
It's our continuing ongoing segment. What's eating Charles?
No, this is not. This is not what's eating Charles. This is Charles made an interesting observation the other day about a similarity between the Expanse and Westworld.
I already feel like I have two bosses.
Well,
which way am I going to go?
My bad. Bill was correct.
Well, that's right. What he had. He had an observation on the list.
Yes. So
which I believe
I'm not a big fan of lists, but let's go with that.
Okay, but which was the similarities? Bill seemed to think this was interesting.
Well, structure is important, so let's go with that.
All right. So both the Expanse and Westworld are exploring the idea of whether or not data and consciousness are related, if consciousness or humanity even can be. Oh boy, I am on the spot now.
Will we be doing?
So it was about how both the Expanse.
They're both crystals.
Wait. Are we going to be doing any spoiler alerts here?
No.
We should. Are you sure? Because
yes,
if
every show's a spoiler alert.
Well, all right, then we should tell our listeners.
Okay, spoiler alerts.
This might spoil some episodes of Westworld and The Expanse for you if you haven't seen them already.
Right.
So just be fairly warned.
Tune out.
Tune out now if you have not.
4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
But both shows are about quartz, about crystals.
Right. Attaining consciousness. In the case of Westworld, it's about the computerized robots.
Yes, and whether
attaining consciousness.
Yes, whether you can become conscious just from quartz.
Right.
Let's say.
How does Westworld
crystal
relate to quartz?
Well, because you have a computer chip running with supposedly a quartz oscillating.
Quartz, but it's pretending.
They don't
tell us.
Have chips? Because all we've seen.
Yeah, because they can pull the brains out.
The nodes, yes, but.
Right, and those are mechanical.
In essence, your brain is mechanical.
Well,
it's computers.
It's a fluid computer. Yeah.
Right.
We don't.
Right. Well, ours is wetware, theirs is hardware.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's made of stone. In fact, the life form that is the Westworld robot is far
Referred
superior
to as
to
hosts.
us.
Referred to as
Hosts. Yes, the hosts are far superior to humans.
Yeah.
They can take like machine gun fire to the face, and then you can fix them up by the next episode. So,
But in the Westworld, in all fairness, they did that to some humans too. I mean, they
But they
didn't take
didn't-
machine
they-
gun fire to the face, but they did use
But that is the
dermal
point, though.
regenerators to
It's-
fix their
it's
skin.
the Westworld world.
Yeah.
They're exploring whether or not a computer can become
Conscious.
human-like and conscious. Now, on the Expanse, it's a little more, it appears to be the other way around. It's this protomolecule is deconstructing humans, and there's a little humanity left, at least in some of the... So I think there's the question is, are you still human if all that's left is data?
Mm-hmm.
So they're very similar. It's a very similar exploration because the protomolecule is converting the consciousness into
that's kind
data.
of easy to answer. But yeah, no, you're not. without your nervous system, without the way that your particular nervous system interprets things, you rapidly become.
About on the show.
I am too. Look what happened to Arnold. Look
Schwarzenegger?
what happened. No, Arnold on the
The
show.
robot Arnold.
The host. In
Oh,
Look what happened to Arnold. Look
I
what
thought we were
happened
suddenly
to,
switching to the Terminator.
Look what happened to Ford. Ford got downloaded. He's not really people anymore.
Right. He's dead.
Well, it's like over time, it happened a little faster than I thought, but it's like over time, when you detach yourself from the human condition, you can no longer really be human. Your actions, your motives.
But can you be a conscious, independent entity?
But you can be, but you're not
Well,
human.
You're going to be changed.
Yeah.
Right.
But the
you
Expanse
could
is an
still be
evolution. I
conscious.
mean, I'm presuming the Expanse is going to be an evolution of human consciousness via
Whether
The
they,
proto- molecule?
via a data collector.
whether
yes.
they want it or not.
And I
Whether
think,
you want it or not.
and I think it's worth
Yeah.
letting the listeners know right now that you guys, you three, Audie, Charles, and John, are only up to episode 4 or 5 of season 3 of The Expanse.
3. We finished 3.
I thought we watched another.
Oh wait, we did. We
episode.
watched that.
We watched
we're
2,
up to
didn't we?
4. We're up to
We're
4.
somewhere in there.
5? Did we
6.
see
I think
2?
we're starting 6.
Okay, all right.
So you guys have not seen the end of season 3 yet, which I have. So I'm not volunteering any commentary here, so I won't ruin it
Oh,
for
are
you
you
guys.
explaining your silence in these matters?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Fair
I
enough.
will
That's
be
fair enough.
less than forthcoming with my opinions,
Well, I mean,
so as not to spoil it for you guys. But if it's
well, I think
Ruining.
Charles's line of thought is still germane. So
yeah, oh yeah,
So-
definitely.
carry on in
Even
terms.
if it's
But I just wanted our audience to know where, so that as we're discussing this, they're going to say, "Well,
he was.
wait a minute, I
By the
saw."
time we got to the end of the show, he was completely wrong.
Yeah, right.
Some of, some of our listeners.
So I
might
don't
have,
want them to think Charles, you know.
Well, some of our listeners might have finished the season just like
Yes,
you did,
right.
and they'd be like, "What are they talking about?" It's like we're
Right.
we're using
Episode
a
6, 7.
incomplete understanding of the show.
Yeah, I
So-
think for the listeners, if you don't remember exactly where 6 or 7 places those guys,
In fact,
they just saw the launch of the missiles from Io containing the
proto
mutants or whatever.
But I don't think it
Proto-kids.
matters.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters where we're at in the show in terms of what Charles is talking about. So, and by the next episode, that's not going to be a problem. I have a feeling that we'll have seen all the shows.
Well, let's just say I will say with Westworld, I think is doing a much better job of exploring
Yeah.
consciousness.
Yeah, true. And I think
Well, I
here's
don't think that we've given. I mean, right now we have not explored the consciousness of the protomolecule. It's like all we've
True.
seen is that and the last episode we're talking about work. That's the only evidence of any kind of consciousness whatsoever. I think it's going to get far more intense.
Yeah, now I think here is an interesting comparison and contrasting. I think in both The Expanse and Westworld, we see a lot of the baser instincts of humans being played out. Now, contrastingly, we still see the proto-molecule as possibly nefarious or bad. We don't sympathize with the proto-molecule's plight. But with Westworld, we are sympathetic to the plight of the hosts. Because I think there's a number of hosts that we've seen.
Well, they were designed to mimic the human condition.
Right.
Well, the protomolecule obviously isn't. It's more of a communal mind kind of thing. And it might think it's doing them a favor by hooking them into the network when actually you're removing their individuality, which is something humans prize.
But he's right. We're not... Yeah, we're not on the protomolecule side yet.
Right. Whereas I feel that we are more on the side of the hosts, just because the way their plight has been portrayed and how they've been treated by humanity.
Correct.
And
there's in Westworld, you feel like the hosts are even more human.
Yeah, than humans.
Yeah.
Now, I think by the end of the current season of Westworld, I think we identify a lot with Arnold or Bernard, right? Mm-hmm. Because Bernard seems to be more human.
I know.
Whereas
I thought he was
Dolores,
there's at least one nice human, and then no,
right?
He's not. He's not the nice human.
Bernard?
Yeah.
I think Bernard is the nice human.
No, Bernard's the robot. Arnold was the human.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I'm saying Bernard is the nice robot that we now identify with and we feel sorry for, whereas we were feeling sorry for Dolores up until she kind of became whatever she is now, this nefarious, kill all of humanity kind of a host. Well, I mean, what do you think, Audie? I mean,
I'm still on her side.
I am too.
Let's take out humanity.
Right. She has become what her creators have made her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and in fairness to Dolores, you're right. I think in fairness to Dolores, if you had all of that happen to you and then suddenly all of those memories came back
and you became
that had been blocked and you became self-aware and you saw how you were treated, you'd probably be pretty pissed at humanity as well.
She is the sum of all of those terrible experiences.
Right. And Bernard has not gone through that. I mean, Bernard has been forced by
he has
to kill,
bit,
but he has not been raped. He has not been shot. He has not been hacked to bits.
He was forced to shoot himself.
Shot himself in the head.
Yeah.
Arnold did. Bernard
No, that
didn't.
was Bernard.
That was Bernard.
Bernard did too.
Oh, yeah, that's
Ford-
true.
Ford made
That's
him
true.
do it.
Yeah, you're
Drinking
right. You're
oil.
right. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
True.
Arnold got Wyatt, actually.
Yeah. Wyatt, Dolores.
Dolores' alter ego
Yeah, to kill him.
got her to kill
Right.
him, yeah.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
So big tangled logic web there. But
Yeah.
Well, and there's some big questions there. Are you more as a person,
Yeah.
more than your background and some sort of statistical biology device that predicts what's going to happen and
Right.
does
Well-
free will? I mean, do you have it?
Right.
Sociology would say no, you don't. But it's like a lot of people like to think they do. So in fact, it's such a popular human idea that people who realize that they don't get depressed. So it's best to think you do.
Well,
So just run with that.
I like the part in Westworld where they talked about trying to extend life, right? With first of all the guy that ran Delos. I can't think of his name. But
like I said, it's Mr. Delos.
Yeah.
The only, what's his first name? Mr.
Right.
Yeah.
But they said, they thought that it was because they didn't have a complex enough program for the humans. But then what they found was that the human programming is very simple, like 10,000 lines of code or something, I think she said. And probably we would argue there's a lot of people out there with a lot less lines.
But if you really think about it, there's very few simple algorithms we run on every day.
Right.
And it's like we're really not we don't deviate a lot from that. In
No.
fact, we call people who deviate from algorithms deviants,
Right.
and deviant means bad.
Yeah.
It's like humans that step outside of this programming,
programming,
for a better lack of a better word,
Sure.
are considered dangerous to society.
Right.
Uh,
But so you have a set of norms,
Mm-hmm.
right, that everybody is expected to follow. But then within those
The
norms,
social structure.
you have your own programming that you follow. Like, maybe this guy is more selfish, or maybe this guy's more gregarious, or, and those are all subtle tweaks within
tweaks
the norms,
within the
right?
accepted boundaries. Yes,
right,
the norm.
right. But now it sounds like, the show, I think, is making the argument that the robots are far more complex than the humans.
But it's like, it's like, of those norms, what are the norms of humanity in the Westworld universe? Because we haven't seen one that isn't terrible. Is there one human that we've seen that doesn't absolutely make you root for the robots to kill them?
Right. No.
I'm serious. Are there any redeemable humans in this universe? Because I have
there
not
was
seen one yet.
William, but he evolved.
He evolved to be
Well,
really
no,
bad.
William-
He started
William
out
himself. William himself said, I peeled back the layers and this is who I am.
good. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Right.
he was bad all the way through,
Yeah.
hiding it from himself.
The writer kind of came onto the host side
Yeah.
right there towards the end of the third season.
Yeah, the guy who wrote
Right.
the stories for the individual.
And the
Is there a decent human in the entire universe? Is that the norm, to be absolute?
you mean in,
Well-
our
Space.
universe or theirs?
Theirs.
well,
But it's mixed because the butcher, the Japanese butcher, that keeps bringing what's her name, not Dolores, the other one, May back.
May.
He becomes
He's afraid of her.
yeah, but he's had a couple chances to take her out and didn't.
Stockholm syndrome. It's like
Well-
you could make a very good case for.
Well, but
he's-
you're asking
he
if is
is
he a decent person?
fallen in
But
love.
the guy-
he fell in love with his captor. He did have
Yeah.
questions about the morality of all the things with the bird that he kept bringing back to life. That could have got him
Right.
in trouble.
I think
So-
I think he is innately good.
Yeah.
And I think he cares about the robots as if they were people. And you know who else I think is innately good, who I didn't think originally was, but that head of security there at the base.
Yeah.
Which at the end, in the beginning, he seemed like he
Yeah,
was
he
very,
seemed-
he was very, they're hosts, I'm just going to go take them out
obey
kind of a
orders.
thing. Right.
Yeah, it's all black and white, but then he
But
gets
at
more
the
gray,
end,
yeah.
he let
Dolores
leave, knowing that
she
she was a host.
yeah.
So, I think
Well,
I think
actually,
there are
what
good
is
humans.
that? Is that good though? I mean, he literally wrote the ticket for the end of humanity by letting her go because
Right.
she's capable of doing anything,
Oh yeah,
and now she's pretty much in charge of the park.
yeah.
She's literally Dolores now runs Westworld
right.
because she's high up in that corporation, and it's like
Because her consciousness was switched to a different body,
Yes.
not the Dolores.
Right. But at the end, as we saw, she
Well, she came
restored
back.
herself in her own body.
Yeah.
Now, when she left on the boat, we saw her open her handbag, and she had 8 or so of those memory spheres that
Yeah.
contain everything of an individual, and we don't know which ones she took.
I'm
I'm gonna-
excited for that.
I'm
That's
going to
gonna
assume
be,
she took Teddy,
I would assume she took Teddy. Yeah.
Right.
She has this weird attachment. to
and
Teddy.
she obviously took herself, because you would,
Well,
because she
well-
rebuilt herself.
Why would she take herself?
She was
I would leave
Well,
her.
'cause she
she was in the body that she left with.
Right.
If I had, I would leave Dolores there because you need someone you can trust to supervise. And who can you trust better than yourself? I'd leave Dolores right where she is.
Well, no, she took her little memory sphere of herself so she could rebuild herself outside in her own body.
Is it a copy?
Yeah.
Because I mean, leave the.
Don't you remember
They
at the-
rebuilt Dolores.
Yep.
And, I mean, Dolores as what's her name, and then they also rebuilt the original Dolores.
Right.
So I would say they leave the original Dolores there. And if you want to make a copy of that, take it to the outside world. That's fine.
My thought is that she has the original Dolores in the original Dolores's body, and she has the memory sphere for, was it Charlotte? I think is that the woman's name?
Is there anything left of? You're talking about the other.
The leader of the woman that was the head of the board was her name Charlotte?
But she wasn't a robot.
She was at the end.
She was at the end.
Yeah, but that was Dolores.
Yeah, but I'm saying since Dolores remade herself in her own body, she could then take.
There's two of them. You know that, right?
There's two Doloreses.
Yeah, there are two Doloreses right now.
Yeah, there's the Dolores in Charlotte's
if
body.
If there's a Dolores in the bag she took out, then that's a third copy. So I'd say
she could have brought 8 copies of herself.
Yeah, she could have brought 8 copies of herself.
Yeah,
or 7 and Teddy, because she won't give up Teddy. Whether or not Teddy likes it or not is a different story.
But I
on
doubt she would do
the
that.
concept, are there any good human beings in the world? The people that go to Westworld are there to act out their darkest fantasies. The actual good people don't go to Westworld.
Yeah,
that's possible.
Yeah.
Truly, only those with a deplorable nature would take advantage of a park you can kill and rape everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, or like William, you go there for entertainment, but then once you're there, you realize the true unlimited ability you have to be yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
They
There's
suck
no
you in.
more.
You could go there thinking you're just partaking in a murder mystery.
Yep.
And then
Or
suddenly.
a Western,
Which is probably how it was portrayed in advertising. Come and do this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it doesn't say come rape people and murder people.
Right.
Because that's what they end up doing, is murdering.
Yeah.
It's not like a fair fight.
Right.
And I'm sure they portray it as all this goes your way, maybe. But there's no maybe. It's going to go your way.
Right.
It's like
Right.
fight the biggest gunslinger in the East.
Right. So I think eventually your baser instincts play out because there's no filters, there's no restrictions, there's no repercussions, consequences for your actions. And so eventually
no remorse either, because you really didn't kill or
a real person
or do any evil acts to anybody. They're just things.
Right.
And that's the whole premise, is that as long as they're just things, I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it says a lot about you what you'll do to things, you know?
Can you be unfaithful to your partner with a sex toy?
I don't know. That's
well.
It all depends.
I think some partners would argue that yes.
Yeah.
Right. It all depends upon the partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, with your point of what we do to things, I immediately flashed back to Nazi Germany, and
when you depersonalize somebody,
yes, they depersonalized the Jews and turned them basically into things.
Into things, yeah.
Right. And they were less than human. So anything you consider less than human, I mean, look what we do with some animals.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's like, there's all kinds of examples, current and past, that we could give for the dehumanizing of a population that leads to atrocities.
Right.
It's like, biggest one that jumps to mind is slaves.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the white man's burden of the Victorian age, where slavery and genocide was actually considered a favor to populations to help them better themselves. And when you got that philosophy, they're not people.
Right.
Yeah.
They're at best
Livestock
and children that need help. And this is how you help them. It's like,
Yeah.
So, when you dehumanize, you can do any kind of thing to people that you want.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they did. That's, I think, the whole underlying message of Westworld is racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is what happens when you take the humanity away from humans. Is you can feel free to do this. Right. And it's like, it's well done. It really is.
Yeah, so we were talking about Dolores and those little memory spheres. We know one of them was Bernard.
Yeah.
Right?
Do we?
Yeah, because she remade Bernard. That's what she told him. Basically, I'm making you to restrain me.
That's right.
Right?
And took him out there.
Yep, and let him, and he's out.
You're right.
Because
did.
she made him,
out there.
because she's got that machine in his house.
In Bernard, the original Bernard's old, like downtown place.
Arnold's
Right.
house.
Arnold's house. Yes.
Arnold's house. So Bernard's out,
Yeah.
and my guess is that she would put Charlotte back into Charlotte's body and let Charlotte go back and run Westworld.
Yeah.
Because I think they're both kind
Under
of gonna
her
be-
image.
Yeah, because they're both because
When you talk about Charlotte,
yeah
you mean Dolores.
the board.
No.
I mean the original Charlotte.
The original Charlotte's dead.
Well, yeah, but
Well,
they still
so
have
she-
the memory sphere of her.
No, she's a human.
They created
They
a
killed.
new.
Yes, and that in that they put Dolores' mentality. So it's
Yeah.
like to call her Charlotte is incorrect. It's still Dolores. They're both Dolores. If there's another one in the bag, there's a third Dolores. But they're all Dolores. Charlotte is gone. She's dead. She's a human. You can't fix that. They shot her in the face. She's gone.
Well, okay, but they remade her body,
Yes, and put
Right.
Dolores into it.
and they have all of her knowledge along with all the knowledge
all
of everybody
all
else
of
that they stole.
Dolores' knowledge.
Yeah, but
You can't take a human's knowledge.
yeah, they did. That's what
They
that
did.
whole. That's what that
That's what the
whole
whole wearing
archive
out-
was.
But
Yeah.
they can't put it into a body. That's the whole point of what happened to Mr. Delos. That's what happened to...
Well, they're close though.
William
They're-
in the future. Yeah.
They're not that close, though, because they're not doing it. It's not working. Yeah, and we
They
saw
just
that
use her background.
We saw
for
that at the
new-
end.
Is it working with William though?
and they didn't take any... They didn't do any memory work on Charlotte.
Yeah.
They
What was-
they just shot her. So she's gone. She's gone
It
forever.
doesn't. But yeah, but William it might work on.
William, it wasn't working on. At the very end, we saw that his daughter came out
Right.
and did the fidelity test on it.
Right.
So it wasn't working.
And I can't remember what happened to the fidelity test.
But
I
then
feel he
her
failed
daughter,
it.
his
Well-
daughter, was also a remake.
yeah, because
well,
he killed his daughter.
He killed his
Unless the daughter was a machine.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It could be the same as Dolores. Because if he killed
Well,
his daughter,
Well, no, but if he made a robot of his daughter,
yeah,
it wouldn't be her. It'd just be a machine made to look like his
Well,
daughter.
That's
But-
what we're saying about that Charlotte.
Yeah.
She's just a machine to look like her. It's not
Yeah.
her.
I know. And
Yeah.
well, you're not telling me. Tell him. He's the
Well,
one
with
that
her
thinks Charlotte
memories-
still exists. No Charlotte memories. No Charlotte
I
memories.
think I'm gonna
I'm pretty sure
I think
you
I'm
should
gonna do a
you
little
should,
research.
You should watch it again.
next.
Maybe.
Stay tuned to the next podcast. We'll
All right.
have an update
All
on the existence of Charlotte.
All right, but Charlotte's been shot in the face, and
Don't tell John.
Charlotte's gone. I'm so sorry.
I
Don't be sorry.
You need a hug? I'm here for you. I got
Yes.
lots of hugs for you. If you need
Thank
some
you.
hugs.
I think we'll see next season that maybe she
I
is around.
could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Well,
If it is, it's going to be one of those plot inconsistencies like on The Expanse that pissed me off.
Right.
Which
right.
is Charles's gripe this week.
So before we move on, if Dolores took other people, other spheres with her from Westworld, and they're not all her, which would be kind of redundant, who else would she take besides Bernard and Teddy?
She didn't
Oh,
really have
Maeve.
No, Maeve was still being worked on at the.
Yeah, but she could take a memory sphere of her.
I don't think she cares for Maeve.
Yeah, Maeve and her don't seem to get along very well, so I don't know. Yeah, why? I think Maeve's going to do just fine.
Ooh,
There's
what about-
two warrior queens here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're alpha females, and they just don't.
They don't like each
In
other.
fact, I was looking forward to them to getting together and working as a team, and then
Yeah.
they met each other, and it's like, oh, this is just not going to be good.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to end badly, and then they just went their separate ways, and said, that's just probably just best.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's how that. But Dolores didn't have a posse. She had Teddy, some people with her, but then those people sort of went away. And
She had Wyatt's posse, and they all got killed off.
you mean the Confederates?
Well, she had her Wyatt's little posse of
She wouldn't have
zombie-like critters,
saved. She wouldn't have
and then
saved
she
that,
used the credit. She used the Confederates for her own
that
gain.
one psychopath. That
What about
went
Clementine?
Crazy. Clementine was more Maeve's thing than.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But what about that psychopath that went crazy on William, and with the nitro, he trying to make William's friend drink nitro so he'd blow up.
Oh,
The one who
yeah,
raised,
yeah.
who was sadistic to that whole town.
Right.
I
can't.
Would
think
she
of who
have a
that
use
was.
for that?
I don't know.
She did use him at the fort.
Exactly. So would she not have a further use for a psychopath?
Actually, Teddy let him go.
Yeah, but that he died with William.
Yeah.
So would she take that? I mean, I
No,
can
she
see
wouldn't
her.
take that guy. She just used him for that moment.
I
and-
can see her having a use for a psychopath
Well, yeah.
in
Yeah.
the human world.
Oh,
It's like,
Yeah.
easily.
so yeah.
Because Teddy wasn't psychopathic enough for her.
No,
She tried to
well,
make him more
yeah.
psychopathic,
And
I
that
imagine-
backfired.
and it.
Well, she felt bad about that.
I
Yeah,
think she'll
he
try to
felt bad
change him
about it
back.
too because he killed himself.
Well, I think she'll try to change him
But she
back.
might
if
have.
he
She
comes
might be
back.
taking William
Yeah.
just so she can kick the shit out of him later.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
that
I
would
would.
be fair.
Yes.
That would be totally fair, just to resurrect him over and over,
over
again.
and over again,
And just
just
torture him again and again. Because
Yes.
that's what he did to her.
Right.
And Teddy.
Or is that
So-
what the actual daughter or the remade daughter? Isn't she the one that's remaking William just to torture him over and over again?
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe they're still trying to get to the point where they can perfect, recreate, putting humans into robots.
Yeah.
Because they said, at that point where she was talking to William, which is obviously in the future,
Yeah.
right?
Distant future.
Yeah, she said they realized that it was just 10,000 lines of code made a human.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in the future, at some point, they've perfected it, and they were able to bring back his daughter. Because she was wearing a cowboy hat, and they put the sensors in the cowboy hat, or in the hats,
Yeah.
We're making
to record the people.
supposition.
That's what we do. We're forecasters
Supposition.
we're soothsayers of science fiction.
There's a
I'm
difference between
soothsaying.
soothsaying about general future ideas is one thing. You're making specific claims about the future of a specific series.
We
It's
are
like-
saying
yeah.
maybe.
It's like, but you're not saying maybe loudly enough. Maybe.
But
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I know you're thinking.
I'm thinking
I
because that
know.
was a future scene.
We'll see.
So I'm
So-
reading into that maybe they've figured it out.
Well, the plan is to figure it out. or
Right.
was.
Right.
Well,
And the whole thing,
so far, if I had no idea season 2 was going to go in the direction it did, and I'm positive season 3 is not going in the direction it did. So there's a really, really good chance we're both wrong.
Oh yeah.
So
And I'm okay with that.
I am too.
I like
As long
being,
as you're more wrong, then I'm okay with that. Just this once, I want you to be more wrong than me.
I'm
That's
okay
all.
with being wrong because it keeps it interesting. I like when my mind's blown by science fiction that turns in a direction I haven't even considered.
Yeah, I like that too.
Which I think is going to happen to you guys with the Expanse the rest of the season.
And let's I mean, the Expanse and Westworld similarities. They're both far more intellectual than I would have given
Yeah.
the general public's interest to be, and they're far more popular with as a highly intellectual show than I would have given the American general public.
That's why they're not on general
Yeah, Netflix, and
media.
Amazon, and
Yeah.
Well, now-
Westworld, because it's quite amazing because the bicameralism in
Yeah.
Westworld, that's an actual theory. Now it's not. There's
Can you
debate.
explain that?
The bicameralism is a theory that back as we were evolving as a species, we went through a period where we heard a narrator, and we, as a species, at one point called that narrator God.
Oh.
And then we evolved a step past that, one more layer of brain tissue or whatnot, and that narrator is now our own internal voice. But there's a theory out there. Most people would think it's hogwash, but it's out there. That's where they stole.
That
That's where. Yeah,
episode.
it's an actual theory that the reason the species we believe in God is because there was an evolutionary stage where we all had a voice.
So is Arnold that voice in the robots,
Yeah.
the hosts?
Yeah, until it becomes their own, which is what happens to Dolores, right?
Actually, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
she as
She
progressed,
internalized it.
yeah, it became more Dolores centric than Arnold's programming centric.
Right.
So yeah,
And the whole Eastworld thing was I think the show letting you know that they were debating, I guess, there's John Searle has there's a what do you call it? It's a mental exercise. It's called the Chinese room,
Yep.
right? Which is if
A thought experiment.
it's a thought experiment exactly
Yeah.
to prove that robots will never be conscious. Is actually what the thought experiment's about, right? Which is a Chinese speaker goes to a room, writes something on an envelope, puts it in the room. The people in the room have books that'll tell them how to answer that envelope, or answer whatever, how to reply from this character to that character. They
How to
can reply-
translate it, you mean?
Yeah, how to, well, not
Okay.
even translate.
Oh.
Just there's a reply. So if they see if the person put an X, they know to put a Y as a response.
Oh, okay.
But they don't know what the X means. They don't know what the Y means. It's just a how-to manual. So you can have a bunch of people in a room doing something that appears to be communication, but it's not, because they're not.
They don't
really-
know what they're saying.
They don't know what they're saying.
Sounds like compartmentalization on how to keep information in one direction.
Well,
It's
but that's
You're getting people to do things, but they don't know why they're
well,
doing
no,
it.
it's
They
a
don't know what
drawback.
anyone else is doing.
See, it's a drawback. It's a drawback to. So the idea that computers can be conscious, this was the explanation that they're not going to be. They're just machines. And I say it applies to a lot of people too. But,
Right.
and so like when they did the East World, I think that's really what that was. What is a tip of the hat to the fact that they've been using the John Searle Chinese room as one of the things they're debating anyway.
Gotcha.
Because there's a whole nother thought experiment too, is like if a bunch of people, how's that go? It's another Chinese.
Could the routines they do every day have been the XY Chinese room thing?
Yeah.
It's like every day they had these set routines. The can of milk fell out of the satchel every time.
Every time.
And it's like, that's X. And then
Right.
someone else showed up, that's Y,
Well,
and they didn't know why.
So that's the whole idea. Is I think even you can go through a routine and not really be conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Like driving home from work.
yeah.
Yeah.
But really the point.
How much do you remember of driving home from work? It's like, I don't. Because I mean, I remember maybe one of the first times I did it, but then after that, it's
autopilot.
It's not only autopilot, your brain blanks it out.
Yeah.
Which is why you get tired when you go to think, like if you leave the country and go to a place you've never been, you get really tired because your brain's on all the time because you're not doing your routine. And it's like, we just go through the daily motions. It's like, if you try to think back of your drive home from work, last time you drove home from work, I imagine you really can't do it. It's like, you know what it looks like,
Yeah.
but the immediate memory just gets wiped out.
The only memory I can remember that readily comes to mind of my trip home from work was actually a trip home from lunch about 2 weeks ago.
Was that abnormal?
Yes.
Yeah. there
And
you
the
go.
reason it was abnormal was because it was coming down Blondo Street, and I'm heading west on Blondo, coming up towards 132nd. And I'm in the curb lane, and all of a sudden, here's a car on my side of the road in the lane closest to the median heading towards traffic. And people are just quickly swerving out into my lane to get out of the
I
way of
bet
this
they
car
are,
coming
yeah.
the wrong way. And everybody's looking at this person, and the person just keeps driving like they're oblivious to what's going on. And I don't know if the person was, some meds went wrong, or
Stroke,
they were just,
Something.
yeah.
But it's
Or
like
maybe
you
they
don't-
were a host, and that means nothing to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
maybe it was Mr. Abernathy.
Yes.
But it's like, no. You remember that because it's weird, because it's something that doesn't happen. The normal drive home, you're not going to remember that. You won't.
Right.
You know the route. You remember it from the first couple times.
Right.
And if something deviates from that memory, then you're going to remember this.
Right.
But otherwise, you just throw out those memories. You don't need them.
Right.
But so most of our days, like we were talking about with those algorithms, the relatively simple lives humans lead, people don't remember most of their lives.
Yeah.
because it's just routine.
Yeah.
The only things people really remember is when routine gets different. Like this. I'm going to remember this because
Right.
it's the first podcast we've done.
Right.
You know, this is number 2.
Right.
And then,
But it's
you know,
new.
But
Yeah.
the next one you're not going to remember.
Yeah.
I may not remember any specifics. I might remember really good moments,
Yeah.
but I won't remember vividly all of this.
Right.
Probably.
I mean, when you're at work in a typical day doing your job, you
Yeah.
remember something that's out of the
I
ordinary.
don't remember how I taught
Yeah.
on Thursday.
Right. But if
don't.
a student stood up and accused you of being an idiot,
Yeah, I'd
you'd remember that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Would bode well.
right.
Would not bode well for the day. It would be a
Right.
bad day.
Yes.
Time
Well,
to-
see, that's another with Westworld. One of the things the hosts need to be human-ish is a background.
Yes.
They-
Right.
they
A
can't-
backstory.
Backstory, the back memories, and that my understanding of things, that turns out to be true with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean,
and it's necessary. You can't predict the future unless you have
a past.
a past.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I read a thing where
Yeah,
amnesia
if it happens
patients.
every day, it's new. You can't predict what's going to happen.
Well, but also, so amnesia patients. if
Or
you
Alzheimer's patients.
Or yeah, or you tell them they're going to go. You're going to go on vacation next week. They won't react to it because they don't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So your personality, what you're excited about, what you hate,
Yeah.
all of that's based on these
Memories.
memories, which are probably, after hearing John speak, they're inflated in a sense because all the boring stuff's dropped away.
Yeah.
Well, all the
and
stuff that's great and all the stuff that's bad will stay. So if you've got a life where more bad stuff happens than good, you might really be looking forward to that vacation. But you don't remember the general, like 99% of the time where absolutely nothing changes. So
yeah. Well, and I was reading, it was probably a couple of months ago, where they were talking about your memories, and that every time you access a memory, you change it subtly.
Yeah.
And so that what you see as memories now that go back, the further they go back, the more you have recalled them, the more altered they are from the actual event. And so I guess the question would be, how much are we altering our own future every time we access our past?
I think we should leave this topic now right where it is
Why?
because we've hit it.
You think so?
Yeah, we nailed it. Plus, any of our listeners that haven't been watching Westworld or The Expanse are not going to know anything that we're talking about. So I think it's time to move on.
Okay.
And let's hope our third show, you say we were not going to remember it. Let's hope our listeners do remember.
Yeah. Well, this is a happy moment in their life. I
Yeah.
mean, I hope no one's being forced to listen. That well,
Ooh.
maybe a little bit.
Oh,
That'd be
What
kind
if we
That's
could?
dark.
What if we could force people to listen? Put them in
Yeah.
a chair.
Put like-
handcuff
like,
them, put
uh,
headsets on.
Yes,
Like-
headsets.
like
You're getting
Clockwork
way too
Orange,
excited,
and
Bill.
it's like they had the little like eyes on like Clockwork Orange. And then
Oh,
they
yeah,
had the
yeah.
headsets, and we make them
Make them watch.
this. Yes, and
Yeah.
your punishment is
Right.
Galactic Driftwood.
Right. Now, Audie said something a little bit ago, which made me think of something. And Audie mentioned that we were talking about the fact that Westworld and sci-fi are more cerebral type shows, make you think more.
They
I
do.
think that was
Yeah.
Charles, actually.
And Audie said something about, well, that's because it's on these streaming services versus
Oh,
regular
that,
TV,
yeah.
Westworld
right?
and The Expanse.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then I thought about, what do you think about Star Trek Discovery? Now,
That's
Star
even
Trek
worse.
Discovery is on a streaming service, but do you
But-
consider it to be just entertainment, or is there actually some cerebral
I
substance
consider
there?
it to be exactly the same thing that we've been talking about this whole time. It's behind a paywall, and it's behind a paywall that a lot of people, just on conviction,
Yeah,
aren't going to crack.
right.
I don't need to go any farther than that on that, but it's like, it's. I think there's still an awful lot of shoot 'em up in that. It's like there's not a lot of science in Discovery. But there's
But-
not really supposed to be.
But is there
That's not how it's designed to be.
is there any morality, or are there any lessons there, or is anything to make you think in the way that you're thinking on the Expanse and Westworld?
No.
Yes. Yes.
I would argue yes,
But
because
still-
I would argue
still-
there was a huge morality thing with
the
and
mirror universe.
spoilers
characters.
here. Well, not just the mirror universe, but with the tardigrade
Well, yeah.
and
But then
how they
let the
were.
tardigrade go.
They figured they were torturing that, and then morality let them
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah. Well, the doctor making himself a guinea pig is what made them let him go. If he hadn't done that, he'd still be there.
You think?
Well, he'd be dead because they would have tortured him to death. But
Yeah, but do you think that if they knew that they were torturing the creature, if that was proven, that they would have continued to torture the creature?
It was.
They were
evil
planning
captain.
on continuing to torture the creature. They knew they were torturing it.
Well, no,
they were
it's
planning on
not even
continuing it.
they. It's
The captain. Well, the
Evil
captain.
Lorca was there. He wanted
Yeah.
to go back.
Well,
to
yeah,
the-
but we
to
didn't
the
know
Okay.
that at the time.
I know we didn't, but I'm just saying, knowing what we know now,
Yeah.
he
But-
would have definitely kept torturing that animal to get back to.
Okay, but
Yeah.
what about Saru? Because in the end, Saru was captain at the time when, what's her name?
Burnham.
Burnham.
Yeah.
When Burnham went to Saru and said, "I think it feels pain. I think we're torturing it. I think it's a sentient creature, and we can't be doing this." And Saru said, "I don't have time for that right now. We will continue doing what we're doing until we get the captain back." Do you think that once the captain was back, if it was shown that that was actually the case, would they have continued keeping that creature and torturing it just for
I
the
think they were
purposes
planning
of
on it.
military
That's
advantage?
why the doctor went ahead and used himself as a guinea pig.
Yeah. Which,
Because
because he knew Lorca wasn't going to give up.
Yeah.
I mean, even they didn't know he was evil. It's like the option of letting it go was never discussed until there was a viable option.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, so yeah, no. And it's like, now that we know Lorca's evil,
Yeah.
damn straight, it's his way back to the mirror universe to get his revenge. There's no way he's going to
Well,
let a tardigrade get in
No,
the way
I
of
know
that.
he was evil, but I'm talking about
This is a
the
military
normal
ship.
universe.
This is a military ship.
Starfleet
they do
people.
what the captain says, especially on a Black Ops vessel, where
Yeah, but Lorca was gone.
at war.
Lorca was gone at the time.
At war, it doesn't matter. It's like actually, it would be Sarah's job to throw people out the airlock if they disobeyed. That is what you do in time war. You shoot people if they don't obey orders, and it's
I
like
think you do if you're a
there's
Nazi.
no if.
No, yeah.
No, this is the military. This
Private Eddie Slovic.
is. Yeah, can you clarify?
No. World War II.
Well, you can.
He was a deserter.
Okay, and what
He-
did they do to him?
They shot him.
Yeah, and they'll shoot.
Right.
They'll shoot anyone who does that.
Yeah.
Now, in a time of war, if there's
Okay,
an active
but-
war going, they
But
shoot
what about
people who just-
conscientious objectors?
Yeah,
We don't shoot
they
them.
don't. They don't go. They don't.
Right.
They don't end up on a battlefield. But if you're in a military vessel and you disobey orders during a time of war, they have the right to shoot you, and that's just how this works.
Yeah.
That's,
I don't think
I
they
will
have
say
the right to
Star
shoot you. I
Trek-
think they have the right to arrest you.
no. Not in
You got to
time of
go
war.
through a court martial.
Yeah, but I don't
But-
think they
but
can. They
once
can't
they-
just shoot you.
But that court
They will at
martial,
the end.
that court martial can be convened on the vessel that you committed your infraction on, and the captain of that vessel that you disobeyed could rule over that. and
Yeah.
it's a
If-
very abrupt and brutal system. But when you're at war on a military vessel, that's how this goes.
Yeah.
And so it's like there would be no conscientious objections. It's like
But this is supposedly the 24th century, and or 23rd century in this case.
there's
And
still
we took
And
all of
we're
our
well more evolved.
we took
with
all
us.
of our In fact, this is the first show that shows that we took all our crap with us.
Yeah.
All of our pettiness, all of our jealousies, all of our angers. This show actually shows that even in the 24th century, we're still people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
but we're still talking about something that's behind a paywall, and none of our people might actually understand any of this.
Well, some might.
Some might.
I mean, everything's behind a paywall. You got to pay to subscribe to Netflix to see The Expanse.
True, which is why we shouldn't talk about
And
it this
Westworld,
much.
you got to subscribe to HBO.
We shouldn't talk about it this much.
But it's
It's interesting.
sci-fi.
It's fun, but
and
if
we
no
got
one,
to talk about
But
sci-fi.
let's, the Star Trek universe in general.
Yeah, we
Which
can
I
talk
haven't
about that.
I haven't caught up to Discovery yet.
Okay.
Anyway, but it is a bunch of humans, usually from the perspective of a human, running around, being jerks, and pretending that they're morally superior.
Right.
I mean, that's
Right. Right.
Captain Kirk's running around causing trouble
Yeah, that's true. Violating the Prime Directive
constantly.
constantly.
And the Next Generation, they were on trial by Q.
Yeah.
Right. For crimes against
That's
the universe.
So, yeah, and
Something to that effect.
so, or for fun, 'cause
Right. Because he could.
He was the superior being.
so it's sort of a flaw in Star Trek. I've always kind of thought that the main characters in Star Trek usually come out thinking they're morally superior and they did the right thing. Not
Yeah.
always, but
Right. Now, do you think that Next Generation did a better job of actually adhering more to their ideals than what they did?
Yeah. Picard had incorporated
Yeah.
it into who he was.
Right.
The
right.
Prime Directive. There's his whole spiel on that being a philosophy
Right.
to live by
Yeah.
always.
Right. Right.
He had to chew out Data once because Data interfered with a society that was going to be wiped out.
Right. Right.
But
And
they intervened.
yeah. 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 I think there was a lot of that in that. So
Yeah.
I think the Next Generation did a good job on that. Voyager was kind of interesting because it was a test of how well you hold up your ideals and your highfalutin principles when there's nobody around to back you up
Yeah.
and there's nobody around to, there's no consequences, immediate consequences for abandoning those, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of temptation to abandon them because you're in an area where you're all alone, you've got no backup and support, and you're surrounded by potential enemies.
Then it's just pure survival.
Yeah, and you're pure survival. I think it would be easy in that situation for a lot of people to abandon their principles
Yeah.
out of the thought of self-preservation.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Now, what about DS9? DS9,
But see, there were a lot of flim flam men
on
in
DS9.
that, if I remember right.
They weren't all Federation. They were
Yeah,
a
they were
multitude of
Everybody was
races,
things that
spy.
weren't a
species.
part of the Federation.
right.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So that was Voyager-like in some respects, in that it was you were surrounded in a strange sector of the galaxy, a deep space outpost, right? And so I think it kind of started the whole thing that Voyager was on, being by themselves, kind of gave you a taste of that. So,
But I prefer the main characters to be a little bit dark in a way.
you do.
I don't. It has always bothered. Well,
What do you think was the darkest Star Trek? Which series?
Well, I don't think I've watched all of them. But
Oh.
Deep Space Nine was. I remember Deep Space Nine being a little dark for me to even continue watching when that was on.
Yeah.
I was younger.
I think it was a little darker in that they introduced that Section 31, which was the unrestrained, covert element
where
of
the
Starfleet.
reason they built the Defiant,
Yes, right.
they built it as a warship. Which
Yeah, and the
Starfleet
fact
doesn't do.
yeah, and the fact that supposedly Section 31 was behind the virus that they introduced into the shapeshifters that was supposedly going to kill the entire species, and then they
Yeah.
were withholding the antidote, which they had, and then Odo got it, and then people on the station were freaking out trying to get a hold of the Section 31 contacts so that they could get their hands on the antidote and save Odo, knowing that Odo would then go to his people and give them the antidote.
You just jump in with the rest of the people.
Right,
yeah.
but in a sense, that's what created the peace,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think DS9 was the darkest of the Star Trek
Yes.
series.
But
Yeah.
but I
So
I
in
do I think
conclusion-
it's a flaw. Like Captain Kirk is, I don't know, looking for
played the most-
adventure.
yeah.
Looking for adventure. He's always fairly upbeat at the beginning and the end of each episode,
yeah.
and he doesn't suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder ever.
Well, he did one episode when Miramani was killed.
Oh yeah,
Oh, you're
right,
sad
right.
about
He'd fallen in love with that.
Yeah.
One of
And
my
that
teachers-
was,
Spock had to.
One of my anthropology
meld with him.
professors, who was also a Star Trek fan, described it to me this way, and I never thought about it, but it's like she called the Enterprise a Chevy, and their whole attitude about, hey, there's a new planet, let's get in the Chevy and go there. And that's exactly what they're just driving through space in their Chevy,
yeah.
and they see something neat, and they just go there.
Right.
There's no thought, there's no preconsideration.
Right.
There's just a bunch of dudes and ladies
Right.
cruising through space. Hey, look at that. Okay, let's go there. And that's kind of what they
Right.
did.
Right.
And it's like, if we compare Kirk to Picard, Kirk should be in jail.
Yeah.
He should be in
Yeah.
prison, in Federation prison,
Right.
for all the
He
violations
damn
of
near
things they
was
did.
a couple of times.
And
Right.
he should have been. It's like,
So you're saying that the Klingon there in one of the movies, it said Kirk is the quintessential criminal and should be put on trial for crimes against the universe or something like that. You'd think that
I
was
think that was the
accurate.
last one
Yeah.
with
that was-
the original cast.
right.
I feel he violated his own rules.
Yeah.
That he actually, it's not the Klingons that should have had on trial. The Federation should have had him
Oh,
on
yeah.
trial.
Yeah, right.
The prime directive didn't seem to apply to Captain Kirk.
Right.
Everybody else, it was very important that you can't do that. Yeah, but Kirk's like, oh, we'll give him a pass again
Yeah.
Right.
this week.
Right.
Next week he'll probably do it again.
They
We'll
had
think
a episode on DS9. They brought up time travel, and Captain Kirk. he was the worst violator. Of
Oh
the
yeah. Right.
time
Right.
traveler.
Well,
Yeah.
that one time they went back, they just jumped back in time to observe the late '60s, and that's how they met Gary Seven, which
Yeah.
I still maintain
Whose
is a
idea
Time
was
Lord.
that? I mean, I agree. Gary Seven is a Time Lord, but whose idea was it to send the Enterprise back to the past?
Right.
It's like just to observe a nuclear platform. It's like we
Right.
have questions about how we survived that era. It's like I don't think sending them back is going to increase our chances
Right.
Yeah.
of surviving the era. And it
Especially-
almost didn't.
Well, they weren't supposed to intervene.
Well, in all
Right.
honesty,
they
though,
were just observing.
it kind of the whole episode proved the grandfather paradox, which is you won't go back in time unless you're supposed to go back in time. If you go back in time and kill your grandfather, you can't be born. Therefore, you can't go back in time.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's found out that the computer bank said that they did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Right.
So, yeah, whatever that means. But there's plenty of times where they did go to the past and didn't
Yeah.
do what they were supposed to do.
Right.
Edith Keeler jumps to mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And the time where they went back and they got observed by that fighter pilot, and
That was the Edith Keeler the episode.
no, that was different.
that was not
Assignment
assignment.
Earth
Assignment Earth was
was
Gary Seven.
Gary Seven. All Our Yesterdays
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that was it.
was the fighter pilot,
Yes.
and Edith Keeler was
Guardian of Forever.
Guardian of
Yeah.
Guardian of Forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, all kinds of time travel.
Yeah.
That's
I
why
don't
they
think
said
that's it.
Captain Kirk, he's the worst.
They
I
they
just-
time traveled on that one planet that was about to go nova, but they went into that planet's past, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
I just realized that Star Trek is awfully close to Bill and Ted's
Yeah,
adventure.
it is.
yeah.
It's all
yeah.
It's like, can you see Kirk and Spock? We're a wild stallion. Yeah, we are. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah. Well, I hate to say this, but we're just over our hour.
All right.
So
Is it time to?
that was a fast hour. It was a fun conversation. I enjoyed it. Did you guys enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you guys listening to us enjoyed it as well.
Yes, we hope so.
Yeah. So we will.
Is there anyone out there?
And that is always the thing I wondered about. I mean, because
Yes.
this we're gonna post it, and
Yeah.
I'll like post it on my site, and I'll get people that will either. I can tell if they've looked or not.
Right.
And that's better than I ever got for my Mav radio show.
Oh, good.
So it's
Good.
like, we'll can we track viewers on the website?
Yes.
The traffic that goes through there? Sweet.
We can.
So cool.
So we'll see.
We'll know if people like us or not, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, Charles?
I just think this is a good spot to introduce. Well, so, because Kirk, I think fits in with what I was with what I call the Dick equation.
Ooh, we're going long, folks, and I think you're gonna like it. So let's see what's eating Charles.
Yes. So there's the Drake equation,
Yeah.
which is mentioned on the Expanse, right? Which basically you statistically multiply a bunch of stats together to see whether or not there's a possibility of alien life, and inevitably it turns out there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with characters, especially, but with real people too, there should be a similar equation where if you do something dickish here and you do something dickish there and you multiply all the stats together, eventually it's going to turn out you're a dick.
Okay.
And Kirk, he may be friendly, but I think he fits in many cases.
Right. I think you're right.
And Charles is going to get the hate mail.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh no, I dig where he's coming from. It's if you are who you are, and that's how you are, and it's like I don't want to do that equation on myself. I don't think I am that kind of person, but I'm certain there's a number of people, especially in the communities we all hang out in, that would definitely say, yeah, that's that guy. But the character, you are who you are. And I remember we were talking about it in terms of like massive character shifts
yes.
in shows where characters all of a sudden start acting in ways where they don't. And it's like, I guess The Expanse would be a good one where on season 3, Holden's not only a military genius all of a sudden, but he's also quite brutal. He's quite angry to everybody.
That's right. That was a shift.
Yeah, and it's almost like if those behaviors manifested suddenly in people you'd think they had a tumor. You really would, because people's behavior doesn't shift that dramatically that
Of course,
fast.
he did get irradiated.
He did.
And
So he could
I
very
think-
likely have a tumor.
And I think some of that will be explained.
Well, it's like it's all good.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of explanation. I don't need an explanation. Who am I? I'm just this guy.
But
You
then-
are John Superpowers.
No,
But you don't want a character. There's a lot of sci-fi where that's a flaw, where the quiet guy suddenly becomes the heroic speech-making guy.
Right.
Yeah, I
And-
like continuity.
And
I do. I'm a
and
fan of
people don't-
continuity.
People in general don't change like that.
Right.
So there has to be a reason.
That's
Otherwise,
what drove me crazy about Lost in Space, the original series. No continuity whatsoever. There's nothing that ever happened in any of the episodes meant anything in any of the other episodes.
Right.
At least in Star Trek, they did. There wasn't a lot of overlap, but what did overlap meant something.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing meant anything in Lost in Space, and that upset me.
Yeah.
The original one or the new one?
The
original.
original.
The new
Oh.
one, the consequences all build up all the time.
Yeah, okay.
In fact, Dr. Smith is a living example of consequences in that new series,
Yeah.
which is another one that's behind a paywall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, yes, it drives me crazy that,
That's the world we live in.
yeah, it just bothers me that it's going to be hard for our listeners, perhaps, to
Well,
follow who we're doing.
You know what we could do? We could fix that. We could put our podcast behind a paywall, and then it'd all be good.
But then they'd have to. But it's not the same paywall, so we're making them all. It's like
No,
really all the shows we talked about are behind different paywalls.
I know.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Yes.
Yep.
And they're good shows.
They're good shows, but maybe that's the only way they can be made.
Maybe.
It's like behind those paywalls. But
Because how many times have you seen a good science fiction show on free TV?
Stargate SG-1.
Well, no, that was good until it just got repetitive. It's
Yeah.
like the last 6 seasons were just the same thing. But I watched it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a great deal.
Yeah.
And it had continuity like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
It has the greatest everything they did, because they got more and more powerful until they were more powerful than the Gould and the Asgardians, and they just, like, Earth was the thing.
Yeah.
By the end of the series, it started with Earth couldn't do anything,
Yeah.
and they were on the brink of destruction by the Gould, and then by the end, the Asgardians gave them all their knowledge, and they are now the supreme force of the galaxy. And it's like, okay, but it had continuity. I like continuity. I do. If you like continuity, Stargate SG-1 is your show.
All right.
So I'll just say that.
All right. Well, I think we need to call it.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
So thanks to our listeners for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors that are thinking about sponsoring
Yeah, our
us.
sponsors are
We don't have any sponsors.
ChloraPrep. ChloraPrep gave us these pens.
I think
so
Alice and Betty is our sponsor.
thank you, ChloraPrep, for these pens.
Yes.
It's like I appreciate that. It's the highest sum we've ever received.
Yes, a free pen.
Is 4 pens.
All right. Well, thanks again, folks, and we'll hope to see you again next week for another exciting episode of the Cosmic
Galactic
Driftwood.
Driftwood.
Oh, God, I don't even know the name of our
Man.
podcast. The Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Podcast.
All right.
Play us out, Slappy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit the gravity well.